Hello, Chef. Thank you for joining us today and giving us your time. It's lovely to have you here.
Hi, Shivani. Thank you for having me. Really appreciate.
Chef, I read your bio and I'm very thrilled, knowing that you have done your STEP program. Post that, you did your OCSC and you've traveled across the world for work, for professional work. And also
Yeah.
that, right now you are an executive chef. So, Chef, in a very young age, you are an executive chef. If you can tell a little about your journey of how did you start and, you know, how what was the determination, what was thing that was driving you?
Shivani, before we start, thank you for having me, and I really appreciate. And I saw your website and I saw your Insta page also, and it's a beautiful platform and it's a beautiful venture that you have started. And I really wish that you be successful in this. Now, coming back to the question that you have asked me, there is no chef, there is no age to be a chef. Trust me on this one. There is no age to be to an executive chef. There is no age to be a chef for that matter. Now, I became an executive chef. I guess it's been now almost 4.5 years that I became an executive chef. A little more than that maybe, but yes, to be honest with you, and it all started when I was a kid, and I used to cook food with my mom. It all started there. I was pretty young, and I had a big appetite. You can say, and my mom would try to always please me by making different things at home, and she would just because I was the pampered one. So she used to make different stuff for me, and I would stand right next to her in the kitchen and start making stuff with her. Maybe sometimes when I was a kid, I used to make breads, make tea at home, make some chicken curry, some basic stuff, what a kid can practically do. Now, this was, but again, it was just a passion that I wanted to do cooking, and I used to love cooking. Now, that time, obviously, I had never thought in my life that I want to be a chef. I want to do it professionally. But again, as time passed by and as I moved further in my life, I decided that okay, this is something that I can think of doing, because it happened so that one of my brother, who is right now the vice president working with the Vodafone, uh, he is my cousin, and he came up to me one day, and that time I was still young. I think I just finished. I was in my 12th and I was giving my exams, and this guy came up to me, and he had already started working, and he was asking me, so what do you want to do in life? And my answer was like what a usual 12th mediocre student would give, and I was like, I have no idea. And then the guy was like, okay, what do you want to do? And then I was like, I honestly don't know. Then he's like, okay, so what do you do when you have nothing to do? What is your hobbies? What do you like to do? I told him, listen, there is only one thing that I love to do: cook and eat. So this guy, my brother, he told me, and he said, listen, he himself is an engineer.
Okay.
Now he's into a different field. Now he's doing good for himself. So he told me one thing. He said, listen, I did engineering, and I'm not saying that it is good or bad, but maybe I can do it for the rest of my life. Maybe not. But do something that you would want to do for the rest of your life, and do something that you want to do because you love it, not because it's a job. Because the moment you start thinking something is a job or something that you have to do, a time will come where you would lose interest. A time would come where you would be like, okay, enough is enough. I can't do it anymore. So he told me, don't do a 9 to 6 job. Don't do something that people would want you to do, or become a doctor or become an engineer. Again, there is nothing wrong in becoming a doctor or engineer. Those are really good professions. But so my passion, he said, you need to drive your passion. You need to think what your passion is and what will drive you in your life to achieve something. And again, that his words, I couldn't sleep that night, I guess. And I was thinking about it. So what the hell, man, what can I do? There is only one thing I can do, cooking. And then that was the moment when I decided to become a chef. And I guess this was long back when in 2004, when I went up to, actually 2003, when I went up to my dad and I was like, okay, I want to become a chef. And he was like, my dad he used to work in defense. He was a scientist. He's a retired army officer from defense. Now this, my dad was he was not into military, but he was into back work, basically into scientific research and all. So he told me that, listen, we have a family of engineers and doctors.
Right.
No, you can't be a bawarchi. I was like, yeah, there is a way of looking at it, and yeah, I could be. Now it wasn't easy to convince him.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow I got the permission, but he told me that, okay, if you want to do it, then you have to do it from the best. Otherwise, you don't do it.
Right, right.
So my dad, being from the background he is, and he told me that you have to do it. If you have to do it from Oberois, from step training, OCLD.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay. And again, I wasn't the brightest kid in the school, and then I applied for step. So my first attempt in step, I failed. I never got through. And that was, I'm sure, because of some reasons. I don't know why. Anyhow, so it didn't work out in the first attempt, and my dad told me, okay, now that you are not getting through hotel management, let's sign you up for engineering. And I was like,
You were a math student as
no.
well. Like you took maths as in your
Yes, I was a math student.
oh.
Yeah. So and he was like, okay, I will sign you up for engineering to some college, and you do that. I was like, no, give me another year. So let's say I put one more year, and let's say I wasted another year just sitting, and I was learning French by that time when I was waiting. And don't ask me if I know French now, because I don't speak it at all now. And I was learning it just because I wanted to get into hotel management. And anyhow,
Mm-hmm.
so I prepared myself, and I read books about how to get into hotel management, how to do step training, blah blah blah. And eventually, yes, after a year, I made it. Now, getting into step, to be honest with you, it's not. Oberois is Oberois. I can tell you this. I have worked in six different countries, and Oberois is a brand that stands apart. And again, there are brands better or even bigger in terms of room inventory, or restaurants, or food and beverage, or anything I can say. But again, Oberois, being an Indian, I would always have a soft corner for Oberois because I've worked in that brand, and I am where I am because of Oberois, because of Step. Now, it wasn't a cakewalk, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't something that, okay, they will serve you food in a silver platter, and then you're gonna be like, okay, beautiful, you become a chef overnight. Okay, if somebody's thinking hotel management is like this, please forget about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tough job. It's a very tough job, but it's a beautiful company. It's a beautiful organization. The Step training program is absolutely wonderful. They train you, they teach you, they guide you, they really nurture you to an extent where if you put an effort,
Mm-hmm.
they put an effort, and you become what you want to be. And again, for me, getting into a Step was already an achievement. But then 3 years of Step I did from the Oberois, and I was it was tough, I can tell you. We used to work hours and hours, and again, but it wasn't like that you have to do it because you have to do it. It was just that because if you want to do something in your life, you will have no other option. You want to achieve something. It is basically, how do I say it, it's basically the passion that drives you to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of people tell me that, okay, I want to be a chef, and I want to be like an executive chef, or I want to be an F&B manager or a GM one day. And again, tell me, what is a short way of how can I do it quickly? There is no short way of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And trust me, if you don't have the passion for cooking or food or hotels or If you don't have, if you're not a people person, don't do it. Because I've seen a lot of people doing it and then forgetting, then doing something else. If you have a passion for it, please do it, because passion is a key word for it. It is going to drive you.
Right, right. So, chef, again, now OCLD. When I was in my college, OCLD was a big thing. We did hotel management, and after that, it was
No,
OC.
see, I did OC, I did step from OCLD. I didn't do the post graduation. I did the step training.
Okay, okay, okay. That OCLD you're talking about. Okay. So yeah, chef, and how
Yeah.
was your? How did you come to know about these 6 different countries that you have visited? So usually people go on their J1 visas, and spending a hell lot of money on it. And wo- how did you apply to it?
See,
Were able to do it?
I was okay. So how did this happen? Was that it was my time when I was completing my step,
Hmm.
and after my step was done, there used to be a chef there in our step training. Sorry, in he was the executive chef that time for Oberois, Chef Barney Dharan. And again, when I'm taking the name Barney Dharan chef, he used to be a god, and for me he still is a god for culinary.
Mhm.
And a brilliant gentleman, a very intelligent person, very hardworking guy. Now, Chef Barney trained us in the last one and a half year. He was the one training us. While this training was getting over, we were all getting posted in some places. Everybody was getting a posting where you will go. I was supposed to go to the Oberois, to Trident Bandrakulla. Yeah, this is where I was supposed to go to. It was a pre-opening property. But before that, Chef Barney, I requested him that I want to do a small cross exposure in the Delhi Cats and Service in the Oberois Gurgaon to understand how the curing of meats and how um, the flight catering works. So I was on a vacation where I didn't take a vacation, and I did my cross exposure training in the Oberoi flight services. It was long back in 2008, I guess, end of 2008. Now from there, I moved. I was supposed to join the Oberoi Trident Bandrakulla, which was a pre-opening.
Hmm.
Now, because of the delay in pre-opening and everything, we got another offer letter that we will be moving to. I was placed in a different hotel, that was the Oberoi New Delhi, and again, oh, I was blessed. The Oberoi New Delhi is a dream property to work in. It is, uh, it's a factory. There is work, and I was working in 360. This was the daytime. I used to work in 360, sometimes morning shift, afternoon shifts, and I used to also spare out time and work in the Italian restaurant sometimes. Now we were there in the Oberoi New Delhi, and it was busy. I can tell you, it was a lot of learning for me, right from a villa property to a city property. It was a bang on change of environment, change of scenario, change of scene. Everything was different. People were different, and working from a getting out of a villa property right after a step and jumping into a business property, and a big business property like the Oberoi New Delhi, it's a big change. It's a massive change. Now we were still young, but again we were learning, and that time I was still a commie, and I was just right after step, and I was still. It was good, but it was. I can tell you, it was tough. We had days where we used to work from morning till night. It was busy, breakfast, lunch, dinner operation. But oh my God, the kind of food that we used to shell out in those days was phenomenal.
Mhm.
There was my executive chef that time was Chef Sandeep Kalra. He was the executive chef of the Oberoi New Delhi,
Mhm.
and he was now he is the chef of Ritz Carlton. Again, brilliant personality, beautiful person, very knowledgeable guy, very knowledgeable and very experienced. Of course, very experienced guy. Now, Chef Sandeep was. We were training under, obviously, the whole the Oberoi New Delhi was working under him in the culinary brigade. From there on, I moved to the Trident Bandrakulla. It was a pre-opening. Now, Trident Bandrakulla pre-opening was getting delayed and something because of the rains and all. So we were also asked to give a hand in the Oberois Mumbai. So I was in the Oberois Mumbai when this, when the attacks happened in the Oberois Mumbai.
The year you're talking about?
So that time sorry?
The year you're asking me, like, I know about that.
I'm telling you, when the attacks, I used to work in the Oberois Mumbai that time, but I was one of the fortunate. I was one of the fortunate people who were safe and who were not affected personally. But obviously, a lot of my friends and a lot of my people who were there in that property, it was a very tragic accident, and it was something that obviously it was something that still takes me back and give me that chills. Uh, after that was my pretty much end of my tenure with Oberois, and after this I moved back to New Delhi and I started working with the Radisson hotels. There was a pre-opening of Radisson in Connaught Place. Pre-opening again, people who have done pre-opening and they would understand that opening a new hotel from scratch is a tough task, and I'm not going to put it any other in a very polite way. It is very difficult, but it is an experience that you must gain in your life. And I was lucky enough to do at least 4 of them. Now, after I did the pre-opening of Radisson. We worked there. From Radisson, I was working in Radisson. Then after that, I got an opportunity to work in do the pre-opening of Westin in Gurgaon, the Westin Hotel. I was there for a very short period. I was working in the Italian restaurant, Prego. I got a beautiful opportunity at that time while I was working in Prego to move to Maldives with Hilton Group, because one of my ex-chefs whom I have worked with, he called me to join his team. And I decided to take that first opportunity outside the country. It was a beautiful experience. Maldives is, again, it's a leisure place. It has nothing to do with your business clientele. People come there. People go to Maldives for honeymoon, for vacation, to have fun. Maldives, I would say the food philosophy is different, because you are working in a place where the clientele is very international. It is not just local. Very few local people would obviously go to Maldives from Maldives. A lot of international tourists go to Maldives from different countries, and the concept of food, the menus that you design over there, is basically majorly your seafood menus. Grills, barbecues, you have fine dining restaurants, you have all day dining restaurants. So I was taking care of a restaurant, and I was that time chef de partie. When I moved to Maldives, I was in Trio, a restaurant called as Trio. It was a seafood restaurant in Hilton, Maldives. One of my chefs, Sumit Kedia, again, he is the one who got me there, and again, I'm very thankful to him. Once I was there, we changed the menu. It was for me, it was a very different experience, because it was for me the first time when I stepped outside of my country, and I was learning how things work out. You have to be very open with people. You have to understand how different cultures work. See, by the time you reach this position, you already know that, okay, food is something that you will learn, but more than food, you have to be something else. You have to be a people's person. You have to understand how to be with people. You have to understand how to respect different cultures. You have to understand how to admire cultural beauty in food, in people, in different aspects of life. Now, obviously, I was with a lot of Maldivian local people, so I was learning Maldivian local cuisine. I was understanding it, how it works out. There is a lot of tuna in their cuisine. There is a lot of chili in their cuisine. just to put it in a short way.
Do you
And
enjoy seafood, chef? Do you enjoy tuna and seafood shells?
oh,
Uh,
I love it. I love it. I love it.
Lobsters.
It's just that from the last. It's just that from the last from the time there is a lockdown happening, I have I guess I've become vegetarian, or you can say I've become vegan. But otherwise, I love seafood. I love yeah, I'm a big fan of seafood, meat, red meat. Yes. So I was. It was a good experience in Maldives. From Maldives, I got an opportunity to move in Middle East, and that was my first opportunity in Middle East. I moved to Abu Dhabi. I was doing the pre-opening of. Actually, it was not exactly a pre-opening. It was just right after the opening. So of Etihad Towers, Jumeirah Etihad Towers. I don't know if you know this property. This is the property where Fast and Furious they were shooting this movie where you jump the car from different towers.
Yeah, Fast and
So
Furious.
I was working. Yeah.
Fast and Furious, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and Jumeriah is a
Yeah.
beautiful property.
Exactly.
I know about it. I do know.
Yes, it is. It is. So that was my start of my small tenure where I worked in Middle East. So I started with Jumeirah Etihad Towers. From Jumeirah, I worked uh, with Etihad Towers in. I started with their lobby. There was a lounge in the lobby. From there, I moved to Naham. It was a seaside restaurant, poolside restaurant. Sorry. From there, I moved to from Jumeirah. I moved to Dubai, and that was my start. Again, I went back to Hilton. You can say I spent almost 6 years with Hilton, a little bit more than 6 years, I can say. So I moved back to Hilton and this was with Dubai,
Mhm.
with Doubletree by Hilton. It was again a pre-opening property. We did the opening of this property. I was the acting executive sous chef of this property.
Mhm.
Now, this property was it was a paradise, I would say. It was a beautiful property, right next to the right. It's right on the Jumeirah Road. How do I tell you now? I don't know if you've been to Dubai, but Dubai and Jumeirah Walk. If you walk on Jumeirah Walk, there are a lot of beautiful properties, and um, Doubletree by Hilton is one of them.
Mhm.
So I did the opening of this property. We were running the show of this property for a good almost 2 years, and after this, within Hilton, I was asked to move to a new pre-opening, which was a Hilton Garden, and that was in also in Dubai. But this Hilton Garden Inn was not like a this was the second biggest Hilton Garden Inn hotel
Mhm.
in the world. The biggest room inventory for a Hilton Garden Inn hotel.
Okay, okay.
Now, a great property, an absolute brilliant team. And to be honest, I still miss my team from Garden Inn and still in touch with those guys. And they still keep telling me that, chef, you come back. And so there I joined that property as an executive chef and as an head chef. And over there, I got promoted to take care of kitchen and F&B on both the ends. So I was basically chef and B in charge, you can say.
Mhm.
And the experience with that property was amazing. It was a garden inn. So again, we had few outlets in F&B. Uh, I can say in terms of outlets, if you say the maximum number of outlets that any hotel that would have, Jumeirah Etihad Towers, they had a huge amount of restaurants, biggest inventory, I would say. Uh, then we went to Doubletree. Doubletree had an all-day dining. They had a poolside restaurant, and this poolside restaurant was like, it used to be crazy busy, as any other poolside restaurant would be. So we used to do almost 400, 600 covers on a weekend, at least 400 covers on a weekday, if nothing less. They had a Lebanese Moroccan mixed restaurant by the name of Almaida. Then we had few outsourced restaurants there. Obviously, we had the all-day dining, banqueting, meeting rooms. Similar concept in HGI, just that we didn't have the Lebanese or the specialty restaurant. We had the all-day dinings, and we had the meeting rooms, banqueting facilities, and a poolside restaurant. HGI was my, you can say it was pretty much my last hotel where I worked in Middle East. From there, I moved to China. And I know I don't know if it is the right time to take the name, but yes, I was working in China for almost 3 years, and my first assignment was with Hilton and Conrad Hilton. I was the cluster executive chef for both the properties. Mm-hmm. Now, in total, almost 14 outlets. It was a big, massive, gigantic property. The room counts, if you take both the hotels together, was around somewhere close to more than 700 rooms. So massive F&B revenue.
Sorry, chef, to interrupt you in between, but what was the culture difference? So when you were in Dubai and then you moved to China, what difference did you see? Number of work hours maybe, or the people or anything? You can please elaborate.
See, the cultural, I can tell you, culture difference was there. It was there, for sure it was there, and it was massive. But again, it depends on you, how you see it. And as a chef, if I had a position of an executive chef, if somebody is still thinking how many hours you have to work in Dubai or how many hours you would work in China, mm-hmm. then I would say you're in the wrong profession. It's not about the hours that you put in, it's about the output that you get out of it.
Right. True that.
Yeah. So at this point in time, you don't even think about how many hours you put in a job. It's about what are you achieving out of it? What is your productivity? What are you giving to the people who are working with you? Mm-hmm. How you're training them? Are they your standard recipe? There's a lot to it. It's like, if I start talking about it, it'll take you I can talk about it till tomorrow morning. So yeah, cultural difference was vast. Again, you can understand it's a very different culture because religion is different, and in China, people don't believe in religion. So in Middle East, it's all about one religion, but again, it's very international at the same time. But China doesn't believe much in religion. People in China are very hardworking, very, very creative. The F&B in China, I can say that F&B, what happens in China, in Hong Kong, in Singapore, in Southeast Asia, is absolutely brilliant. You can say that concepts, when we talk about concepts of restaurants, Middle East and China, and or I would say Southeast Asia and Hong Kong, these are the places where concepts are made for restaurants. So in terms of concepts, it is an amazing place to be in. And I learned Mandarin there, so I can speak a little bit of a Mandarin.
Okay, you can?
And I had to, obviously, because yes, I do. So
toughest languages.
People don't speak English there. It's not really very tough, to be honest with you. It's not really very tough. It's not really tough for Indians because a lot of your pronunciation is very similar to Hindi. So once you start learning Chinese or Mandarin, to be specific, Mandarin, not Cantonese. Cantonese, oh my God, it's very difficult. But Mandarin is still easier than Cantonese. And Mandarin, if you want to learn, it's easy for an Indian to learn. That's what I feel. And again, that's my personal opinion. Mm-hmm. Now, I happened to learn Arabic as well because I was in Middle East, but that wasn't too much. Again, Mandarin, I learned basic of it so that I can talk to people because people don't speak English in China. So once you want to communicate with them, you will have to learn their language. Otherwise, you're in a no-go zone. Anyhow, so yes, it was a good one. It was a good experience. From there on, that was the time I moved from Hilton, and currently I am working with IHG Hotels in China, and I was with Crown Plaza. This Crown Plaza was it's in Xi'an. Xi'an, I don't know if you know about Xi'an. Xi'an is the previous capital of China, and Xi'an is a tourist destination because of the terracotta warriors. Now, terracotta warriors I would recommend people who have not seen Terracotta Warriors, they must, because it's the eighth wonder of the world and it is absolutely magnificent. It is something that you would have goosebumps if you see this.
Sure.
Now, a beautiful property, the biggest property of a Crown Plaza hotel in China. We had almost 11 F&B outlets, banqueting the size of a monster, I would say. We had almost two big ballrooms. Then you had small banquet halls, and then you had small meeting rooms. But yes, it was a beautiful property, amazing, amazing team. I had almost a team of the one that I'm heading right now is almost, you can say, after this coronavirus thing, I had almost a team of 180 chefs total under me. A, a beautiful brigade. We had a Chinese restaurant, steakhouse by the name of BNG. It was more like a steakhouse mixed with molecular food gastronomy and Chinese food, authentic Cantonese, mixed with a little bit of Xi'anese local cuisine. Then there was a local Xi'anese restaurant, all day dining. Again, as you would understand, China has a big demand of tea. So we had a lounge for tea, but then again, we also had a restaurant at the 50th floor. And this was not the executive lounge. Executive lounge was separate on the 46th floor, but this was on the 50th floor. There was a tea restaurant, I would call it, where people would just come to have different types of Chinese teas. And oh my God, you would not believe me how many types of Chinese teas are there. There are a lot. People just, and it's expensive. I myself have tried a Chinese tea which was almost worth 50,000 RMB. 50,000 RMB. And when I say 50,000 RMB, it's almost close to 5 lakh Indian currency.
Wow.
A packet of tea for 50,000. So again, it's a beautiful place to work in. You see different ingredients. China is one place where I would obviously definitely recommend. If not in China, you can still work in Hong Kong or Singapore and gain similar experience when it comes to seafood or when it comes to gaining experience with different ingredients, because it's a different, I would say it's a different planet altogether.
Right.
When you move to these places, because for a chef, it's very important to understand ingredients, to understand what you're dealing with, to understand taste, to understand smell, to understand the pairing, to understand if you want to create new recipes, if you want to create a dish. Now, there used to be a time where you would go on the internet and you would just grab few recipes and put it on your menu. And I've seen chefs doing that, but that doesn't really help. If you are in love with food, you would not take somebody else's recipe. You would rather have your own signature recipes on the menu.
So what all chef, what all ingredients that you had to deal with? Please do let us know now, like the difference. I'm sure you must have something bad, but yeah, what
I
all?
will tell you that there was this. Okay, there were weird ingredients. Okay, so there is this. It's there are few ingredients which do not practically have an English name, or again, if there is an English name, I couldn't find it. Like there was this. There is a prawn, which was one of my favorite ingredients. It's basically, if you find it in any other country, you would call it a crayfish or a crawfish, but they don't call, and it doesn't even really look like that. They call it shapaza. It's the Chinese name for it, shapaza. So again, you would not. Again, this sounds weird, I know. It's a very the Chinese name. There are a lot of ingredients in China which when you see them, you understand that the world is very different from what you have seen in different countries. Because if you go to Middle East, Middle Eastern food is world renowned.
Right.
Middle Eastern food is something that people admire everywhere and people know everything about. Everybody at home, I can cook Middle Eastern food if I have fair basic knowledge of Middle Eastern cuisine, like hummus, baba ganoush, mutabal, shawarma, basic stuff people would know. And most of the people have been to Middle Eastern restaurants. A lot of Middle Eastern, Turkish food. People have been to these
Not in
restaurants.
Middle East, but
But
in
when you
other
go to, and
places.
again, I'm not saying people have not been to Chinese restaurants. Sorry, I'm sorry.
I was saying that, chef, no, Middle Eastern food, not just in Middle East, but in different parts of the world, you get the same kind of uh, food, and shawarma
Yes,
and baba ganoush. These are very famous. Uh,
yes, very true. Middle Eastern food has made its place in the world, and they have made a mark on the map, so people know it. And again, I'm not saying that Chinese food has not done it. Chinese restaurants, what you see out in China, and Chinese restaurants, what you see outside China, are very different. Because, like I would say, if you go and eat Chinese food in Delhi, in any of the Chinese restaurants, and again, I'm still new to Delhi because I've never been here, but this is what I feel, that it will be, you have to bring a local touch to the food that you're serving in any community. You have to make it palatable for people who are eating it. This is what I feel. Now, but Chinese food in China is very, very authentic Chinese. And I have seen dishes which uh, are sometimes weird to look at, but oh my God, they are absolutely delicious. And I will tell you, there was one dish which was, there was a salad they used to make, which was with cucumber and soya sauce and Chinese vinegar. And they used to add fungi mushrooms, black fungus. Now, to this whole thing, they would add deep fried fish skin. Now, this skin would be, oh my God, it was something that if you would look at it, you would be, you wouldn't, you would, I'm not sure if everybody would enjoy eating it, but it was a delight. It was delicious. Like, for example, sashimi of a geoduck, absolutely beautiful. A sea urchin, a fresh sea urchin. You don't find, you can find fresh sea urchin outside China, but then you will be paying a hefty price for it. But in China, these things are locally available, and they are cheap, and they are fresh, and they are absolutely gorgeous. So yes, and again, I'm in no context I'm saying that I'm promoting China here, but I'm just as a chef telling you that the ingredients in different parts of the world are very, very different. And as a chef, you should always try and play around with different ingredients to understand that how it is going to help you nurture your thinking of uh, creativity, how you can create different food with it, how you can create different plates with it. uh, like for an example, we had one of the starters in my menu, which was fresh oysters, French oysters. But again, because it was a fine dining steakhouse, we decided to get French oysters, but we used to flavor them with some local ingredients. Now, the way Chinese people eat oysters is with soy sauce and wasabi. It's a typical way of eating oysters there. They add soy sauce, they add wasabi, and there you go. This is what it is. Now, what we did with this is we made caviar, black caviar, which was absolutely, if you would put that fake caviar in front of somebody, they would not be able to make it out. So we made fake caviar with soy sauce, and we made ice cream with the wasabi, and we used to pair these two ingredients with edamame beans, and we used to serve it with fresh Rockefeller oysters. So the whole combination of oysters with wasabi, with soy sauce, and the caviar, the appearance, everything was a, a delight. It was blissful. It was something that explodes in your mouth once you eat it. This was one of the examples that we had in the menu.
Oh, yeah, that sounds lovely and very interesting. Wish to try
Yes,
that
and
sometime.
expensive.
Chef, so thank you for sharing your entire journey. It was lovely to hear of, your journey from one place to 6 countries in the world. Chef, so coming back to your initial stage when you were supposed to when you were supposed to do your industrial training, a lot of people have come up to me asking where should they go for industrial training. So what should be their point to, thing in their head? Should they go for a pre-opening property, or should they go for a small hotel, or should they target a large hotel? Which should be the good one, good industry to opt for? Like which, say, I mean, which hotel to go for actually when they are looking for their industrial training?
See, Shivani, to be honest with you, where you do your training, if you're a person who wants to be a chef, and if you have a passion for it, and again I go back to my same thing, if you have a passion for it, where you do your training will make difference. But again, it is not a life making this decision where you do your training. As long as you are in a good brand and you're doing a training in a good brand in a good reputed hotel, where you are working with the right kind of people and where you are learning every day. And when I say learning every day, let me put a statement on this, that learning does not depend on the people that you're working with. Nobody is going to spoon feed you. It all depends on yourself. So as a chef, if you want to grow, and if you're a trainee, and if you want to grow in your life, and if you want to do something, you have to learn. You have to read books. You There are a lot of books, a lot of authors these days, by Chef Marco Pierre White, by Gordon Ramsay, Jamie Oliver, Heston Blumenthal. Heston is one of my favorites. Again, not everybody likes Heston, but for me, he is a guru. So these are the kind of books that you need to refer to, and you need to understand. There is a very famous book right now. It's one of the restaurants that I've read recently from Otto Longi. So beautiful books. People have to gain knowledge if you really want to be successful in this industry. If you really want to be in a position where you can guide people or transform your own career and help other people, motivate and help them in their career. So you have to have knowledge. Now it is important where you do your training. But again, it's not a life breaking decision. So if somebody tells me that, okay, I did not get a training in a good hotel, that's why I'm here. Nah.
So you have to work hard wherever you are, and keep moving, and somebody right would
Yes.
find you definitely, right?
Yeah, if they say God help those who help themselves. So if you are helping yourself, a time would come where God would obviously see what you're doing. And believe in God, believe in what you're doing. People would obviously admire you, and people would obviously look what you're doing.
Right, definitely, Chef. Chef, so currently this whole coronavirus phrase, and right now you're in Delhi and your work is in China. So what new things are you doing, and how are you making this time productive?
See, for me, to be honest with you, the one thing that I'm doing a lot right now, and I'm very proud of that, is that I'm spending a lot of time with my daughter, and which was much awaited, which she has been waiting to see her dad from the last 1.5 years. So I wasn't there when she was born, and yes, I missed a lot in that time. So this is for me. I'm taking it in a positive way, where I get to spend quality time with my family. I'm also doing a research on the next menus that I'm going to work on. At the same time, I have few projects that I am working on. Now, as a chef, you also need to understand that ingredients and culinary will never stop. F&B will never stop. Even if there is a lockdown, people are still thinking, and people are still thinking and creating new things and recipes. So always get yourself a good book uh, and read that book, and try and gain as much as you can from it.
Okay, that so and Chef, so we have a lot of students right now who are following my channel, and they ask me questions of, what should be their vision to get in the industry. What would you tell to them to look for in the industry?
See, first of all, they need to. I cannot. I'm not going. I cannot give people the reason to be a chef. But I'm going to give them, if you want to be a chef, what is your reason? You need to tell me why. There are a lot of people who do this profession because they see a lot of chefs on TV and they want to be one of them, and they are like, okay, I want to be on TV, and that's why I want to be a chef and I will open my restaurant. It's good. It's beautiful. Everybody wants to do that. Everybody likes the end result.
Right.
You know, everybody likes that, but nobody sees what's underneath. Nobody sees what is below the water. There is a lot of hard work. There is a lot of persistence. There is a lot of perseverance which goes in this, and you will have to put in a lot of effort, a lot of hours, a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of broken bones and pains, I would say, if you want to achieve what you want to achieve in life. Does not matter if you want to be a chef or anything else in life. Regardless if you want to be a chef or if you want to be a scientist or if you want to be a pilot, or for God's sake, if you want to be an engineer, anything, if you want to be successful in life, you have to give 110% these days. And trust me on this one, I'm not saying do hard work. Please don't do hard work, because it is not just hard work that pays these days. You have to be smart. So my thing would be to kids, and again, the generation that is coming up now is quite smart, it's quite bright. I wish I was half of what they are. And yes, they have to be smart as well as they are working hard.
Great, Chef. This was all for today. Thank you for joining me. And I had a lovely session with you to know about your life, about your journey, about what you're doing right now. And all these experiences have given me a nice delight of, culinary delight. I wish to speak to you again in person, maybe whenever possible. And thank you for joining today.
Thank you, Shivani. Thanks for having me, and I really appreciate your giving me time.